9 seasons, Extreme Makeover Home Edition gave America the same fix week after week. A family in crisis, a busload of designers, a tear-soaked driveway, and that scream everyone remembers. What most viewers never saw was what happened after the bus pulled away for good. After the cameras, the crew, and the sponsors packed up and left these families alone with a house most of them could never actually afford. Bigger homes meant bigger property tax bills, bigger utility bills, bigger insurance premiums, and in more than a dozen documented cases, that gift ended in foreclosure, bankruptcy, family collapse, or worse. These are 5 of the most well-documented, most devastating cases the show left behind, and how a machine built on happy endings kept quietly producing the opposite. Number 5. The Ocvath family, Gilbert, Arizona. In 2005, 9-year-old Cassandra Ocvath had just finished 6 brutal months of cancer treatment at a hospital in Tucson. She didn't ask the show for a house. She wrote in asking them to renovate the children's cancer ward, where she'd spent her worst days.
It's a great hospital, great nurses, great doctors. I just want to help them out. As you can see, the carpet needs some work.
It does need to be more colorful, and the walls are pretty bland, aren't they?
She wants this so badly. She is gonna do this with or without ABC's help.
I make these necklaces to raise money to paint the bone marrow transplant rooms.
She's 8 years old, and she could move the mountains.
The producers loved the idea so much they went further. While the Ocvaths were on a surprise vacation, the crew secretly bought the modest 1,800 square foot rental house the family had been living in, tore it down, and built a 6-bedroom, 2-story mansion in its place, complete with a home theater and a backyard carousel.
That house is in my dreams only. I don't know how they got it out of my head. That house is exactly what I ever pictured my house to be.
It looked like the ultimate reward for a family of 9 that had already survived enough. Then the bills arrived. The home's utility costs, which the builders had covered at around $500 a month during construction, ballooned to $1,200 a month once the family moved in. Their property taxes quintupled overnight. There was no mortgage to worry about, but there was suddenly a 6-figure carrying cost on a house they'd never budgeted for. In 2006, the Ocvaths took out a $405,000 loan against the house just to keep up with bills. It wasn't enough. The home went into foreclosure in July 2008 and was scheduled for a courthouse auction. The sale only got cancelled after the family sold a pair of vehicles and scrapped together a $14,000 payment. The home, once listed for $1.8 million, was eventually sold in the spring of 2010 for $540,000. After paying down their debts, the family walked away with roughly $8,000 soon after Cassandra's parents split up. Number 4. The Lanes family, Bergenfield, New Jersey. If any family seemed to deserve a break, it was Lane's. Vic Lanes began losing his sight as a teenager from hereditary condition and unknowingly passed it on to both of his daughters. His son was born deaf after his wife contracted German measles during pregnancy. By the time Extreme Makeover found them in 2006, the household included legally blind father, 2 nearly blind daughters, deaf teenage son, Vic's blindly elderly mother, and a wife recovering from thyroid cancer. Their small split-level home, with its steep stairways and faulty plumbing, was genuinely dangerous for a family with that many disabilities. The show's rebuild was extraordinary. Over $100,000 in specialized accessibility technology, strobe light smoke alarms, reading systems for the blind, the works.
The garage door is blue, the door is blue, oh my gosh, I can't describe.
She just took a second for herself to absorb the house, and then suddenly she turned into helper mode. She explained to Vic what the house looked like, explained to the girls, signing for Zeb, interpreting for him. I mean, she went to work, and that's who Maria is. She's constantly thinking of others.
But the county reassessed the home almost immediately after the renovation, and the new valuation more than doubled their annual property tax bill. New Jersey lawmakers actually introduced legislation to grant the family a 5-year tax exemption. It wasn't enough. The Laney's couldn't keep up, and they were ultimately forced to leave New Jersey entirely, relocating to Virginia Beach to live with relatives where the cost of living was lower. A family the show had specifically built a customized, technology-filled sanctuary around ended up losing that sanctuary to the tax bill it created. Number 3, the Beach family, Kemah, Texas. Larry and Melissa Beach had spent years fostering and adopting children with serious disabilities, taking in more than 80 kids over time, 9 of whom they formally adopted. When Hurricane Ike destroyed their home in 2008, the Beach 15, 2 parents and 13 children, ended up cramming into a single FEMA trailer.
As you can see, this is what we have right here. There's a small living area back there with 4 beds. And then there's this bathroom. We have another couch right there where we use as another bed. And this is where we're staying right now.
You know, my dream when we started adopting these children is to give them everything that we could give them.
I feel like I let everybody down, kind of, you know?
We don't have the money to fix our house. We can't do it ourselves.
In 2010, Extreme Makeover gave them an 8-bedroom home built for a family that size. It should have been the turning point after years of hardship. Instead, tragedy struck almost immediately. Their youngest daughter, 2-year-old Mercy, who had been born with significant medical complications, died suddenly from a seizure just before the episode aired. It was a loss no house could fix, and Larry and Melissa made the difficult decision to stop fostering afterward. Years later, as their older children grew up and moved out, the financial reality of the home caught up with the family in a different way. With only a handful of 13 children still living at home, the massive 5,000 square foot house built for a family of 15 became an unsustainable expense for a much smaller household. It's costing us more to live here than it would to sell it, Larry told the Houston Chronicle. In 2014, the family that the show had celebrated as one of its most inspiring stories quietly listed the house for sale. Number 2, the Wofford family, Encinitas, California. Dr. Brian Wofford was a widowed chiropractor raising 8 kids alone after his wife, Teresa, died in 2000. His 4 daughters shared bunk beds stacked in 1 bedroom. His 4 sons slept in a converted carriage. In September 2004, the crew transformed his cramped 1,200 square foot house into a 4,300 square foot showpiece in just 4 days. It became one of the most watched episodes the series ever aired. What most fans never learned is what came next. As Wofford himself put it years later, a lot of people think when you get the house, you get the mortgage. Well, you don't. He refinanced it repeatedly, cashing out equity to cover renovations, medical bills, and office repairs until the mortgage on the house ballooned to roughly $770,000 with an adjustable rate attached. When the 2008 recession hit and that rate reset upward, Wofford, already stretched thin, fell behind. By December 2009, foreclosure proceedings had started with an auction date set and the family facing the loss of the home that had made them famous. Only after national media picked the story back up did One West Bank agree to a trial loan modification. It held. 15 years later, Wofford was still in the house, working to pay it off completely so he could leave it to his kids. He got one of the rare survival stories on this list, but only because the cameras came back a second time. And the most infamous case, by the show's own historical reputation, the Harper family, Lake City, Georgia. In January 2005, ABC gave the Harpers what was, at the time, its most ambitious build ever. More than 1,800 volunteers showed up to tear down a house plagued by a failing sewage system that flooded the family's home every time it rained.
It's been real hard owning a home that fights back. They can't afford to do what really needs to be done. The whole thing has to be dug up and replaced, and that includes the basement.
And replace it with a 5,346 square foot turreted mini mansion. The show didn't just hand over a free house. Beazer Homes, the local builder behind the project, delivered it without $1 of debt attached, and Beazer's own employees and corporate partners raised an additional $250,000 for the family on top of that, covering a scholarship fund for the kids and a home maintenance fund, plus enough set aside to pay the property taxes for the next 25 years. On paper, the Harpers had been handed the single safest outcome of any family on this list, a debt-free luxury home with its own built-in tax cushion. 3 years later, none of that mattered. Milton Harper decided to start a construction business and took out a $450,000 loan using the show's gift, his family's home, as collateral. The business folded almost immediately, with no income to show for it and a $500,000 debt attached to the house. The Harpers stopped making payments and JP Morgan Chase moved to foreclose. On August 5th, 2008, the home that took an army of volunteers 6 days to build was scheduled for auction on the steps of the Clayton County Courthouse. Lake City's own mayor, who had personally helped hoist a support beam into the Harpers' living room during construction, didn't hide his frustration, telling reporters, "It's aggravating. It just makes you mad. You do that much work and they just squander it." The Harper case became the single most reported extreme makeover disaster in the country, breaking during the height of the national foreclosure crisis and turning the show's biggest success story into shorthand for everything that could go wrong. It was covered by the Associated Press, the Wall Street Journal, and dozens of local outlets, and it directly pushed ABC's production team to scale back the scope of future builds. That's the trade nobody talks about when the bus pulls away. The cameras only ever needed the beginning of the story.